Cool, thanks Stu. So my name's Ken. Liam earlier talked about responsible disclosure. I'm here to talk about what happens when that goes wrong. And I got some great examples, one of which happened literally yesterday, and I got updated this morning, so this is bang up to date. I'm going to talk about IoT, that's what I love talking about. I want to show of hands here. Who was at B-Sides Glasgow? Shit. Okay, right, we'll change tack. Everything's going to be fine. So who am I? Well, I do a lot of work in IoT security research. I'm a really, really shit pen tester. There's a bunch of much cleverer guys in the team that work with me. There's 70 of us now, which is crazy. I never know how it got that big. We do a lot of stuff you've probably seen in the press, things like car hacking, my friendly Mitsubishi Outlander, Samsung smart tellies that listen to you. That was our work, believe it or not. My lovely swearing friend Kayla, who I don't think is making an appearance today, and so much more. But I want to start with this. You're going, it's your bloody kettle again, isn't it, Ken? No, it's what's in the kettle that counts today. By the way, taking a metal kettle through airport security is a really good way of hiding stuff. I want to start with this. Who knows what this is? Yes, you know what that is, don't you? This is awesome. Fingerprint padlock. How often do you find you haven't got the right keys on you? What a genius idea of someone to go, do you know what? I never forget my fingers. Brilliant, I can unlock doors and things and padlocks and stuff. And you all saw the YouTuber who found a problem. He realized you could put a sticky pad in the back and unscrew the back. Thought great. And actually I thought that the guys at Taplock dealt with it well. They looked at it, they realized there was actually a tiny design flaw in the one he had. A pin hadn't engaged when they put the turned the background, and he managed to unlock it and therefore pop the lock. And actually it all went away. But of course we'd seen it by this time, and we're thinking, oh, I wonder if other problems with this wonderful thing. So this is awesome. So I don't know if you realized it was part funded during Dragon's Den Canada, which I thought was interesting. And we looked to see how it worked, and there were other things that it did. You could also unlock it using Morse code. Wow, that's mad. And also you could use Bluetooth. But it made all these claims in its marketing materials that I just thought, wow, unbreakable. Okay, military grade AES encryption. Wow, I want some of that. I really do. And it was only 80 quid. So we started, and went off and bought a couple from Amazon for the princely sum of £80 each, and started having a little look. And we started reading their marketing materials and saw the word Zamac 3. Sounds great, doesn't it? Zamac 3 is dinky toy stuff. It's the stuff they make toy cars from. Sounds good though, doesn't it? It must be awesome. It's double layered with anti-shim and anti-prise, which makes it virtually unbreakable. Do you know what? I don't mind people making claims about their product, but when they're so far-fetched, it's the red rag, isn't it? You've got to do it. So we had a go. What did we find? So was there anything right? HTTP only. Come on, guys. What year are we in? There was no way to factory reset it we could find. If you could listen to the replay, the unlock message, you could replay it. You could even then share the unlock codes with a friend and revoke it later, except you couldn't. It didn't actually work. It was crazy, really, really crazy. So we started looking at the Bluetooth unlock, and the pairing process, when we pulled the app apart, it uses two strings. It uses key 1 and serial number. I think, okay, that's fine then, right? There must be nice pre-shared secrets. Something that's generated from something seeded, that's genuinely cryptographically secure. No, you just had to reverse the map and uppercase it. I kid you not. So key 1 was characters 0 to 8, the serial was 16 to 23, and they hashed it with MD5. Yes, they didn't salt it. Awesome. And this is when things got really, really silly. So I've actually recorded it because when you're doing the demo around a lot of other Bluetooth devices, it can be a little bit flaky. But if you're thinking about the real world, someone's shared in their back garden or whatever, there's not going to be much Bluetooth noise, but it was this easy. That's my colleague Andrew's arm, who is awesome, and bang, unlocks. That's nuts. Now, their stated unlock time was 0.8 of a second. We managed to optimize it to less than 0.5 of a second. So we had the hacked unlock faster than the genuine unlock. What? That's just nuts, isn't it? But what I loved about Liam's talk is about the process of disclosure and about how you don't cock it up. Unfortunately, every example I'm going to show you tonight is about a complete train wreck of disclosure. I've even blogged this morning about yet another train wreck. So let's have a look how the disclosure of the TapLock security flaw went, shall we? Anyway, it didn't go so well as it might have done. So our view was, this is a lock. Its sole purpose is to secure stuff. It's a lock, and we completely destroyed its sole function. So we felt there was a very significant use case. So we gave it to them and said, guys, you've got a really significant problem. We think you can probably fix it relatively quickly with a mobile app update and maybe a firmware up push to users, but you need to be on this and fast. And they replied to us and said that we're already aware of this. Like, what? So hang on, you're still shipping a vulnerable padlock. Wow. Okay, guys, we're giving you 7 days. Might sound a bit short, but we felt this is so important. You've got 7 days to at least do something, whether it's deactivate the Bluetooth functionality or something, because people are trusting these devices. They're putting expensive products and securing them with these. We felt it was that important. And then a guy we know really well called Vangelis Stikas was working on us on the same thread. And he had a look at the API. And then he realized, using the API, you could retrieve unauthenticated the lock and unlock location of any of the devices, which means you could now geolocate and discover where the locks were and unlock them to order. We're like, okay, you know where we gave you 7 days? Right, you've got to take the API down now. And I don't think that was unreasonable, because we found it. It wasn't difficult. It wasn't complicated. It was a simple API issue. They weren't authorizing the user correctly. And now anyone could unlock your locks. Guys, you've got to take it down. We're giving you till tomorrow. You're cool. It's going public. It's going to go in the press. And in fairness, they woke up and they took it down. We waited till they took it down. We verified it was down. And only then did we go live with the story. Pretty tough though, hey? They fixed it. They've actually removed the Bluetooth unlock process. They've now resorted to the Morse code unlock. Brilliant. And what was interesting is you can't buy it on Amazon anymore. It's been delisted. It's a real problem for us. So we had 3. We took one apart. That doesn't work so well. One of them we blew up, and this is the last working one we have. We can't buy them anymore because I think security researchers around the world are snapping these up to play with them. How annoying is that? Which is why I laughed when John McAfee put up a thing saying $100,000 if you can break our wallet. Surely he's actually trying to get every researcher in the world to bulk buy his product, right? Now that's a good marketing ploy. I like that one. Anyway, now, a few other things about smart locks. Zamac 3 melts at 400 degrees centigrade. It's really, really good for the precise moldings you need for a lock, but it's not so good for security. And I want to show you a little example of what happens when you do quite an intense attack against Zamac 3. Let's see if this is going to play. It's been a little bit flaky. Is that, isn't it? It's not going to play. Oh, great. I've got a wonderful photograph. Sorry, are you going to work? Come on, you know you want to. Come on, let's try that again. Bear with. That's why. Right, let's try that again. There you go. Let's try this again. Yes, let's keep that. Yeah. Right. So what we did is we got a blowtorch and a lock. And it doesn't take very much to get blowtorches to 400 degrees. So we thought, let's have some fun. Let's see what happens if you burn a lock at several hundred degrees centigrade. Because remember, this is Zamac 3. It's easily molded, but it's not hardened steel. So we had a bit of fun and got up to temperature. We had actually taken the LiPo battery out of this because most of the time what happens is the battery explodes first and destroys the lock. A bit of a poke there. No, not quite off yet, but this is good. Remember, this is virtually indestructible. This is a lock. Wait for it. And come on, you're nearly there. It's a bit of a dangerous day, this one. And yeah. That took 60 seconds. If we'd left the battery in, I think we could have got it to explode within 10 perhaps. The other thing that I looked at, the anti-shim feature. There's that little step there. That's so you can't put a small aluminium ring pull down and you can't trigger the lock to pop. Unfortunately, because it's a relatively small shackle, it actually weakens the shackle quite a lot. And 10 seconds in, with only a 12-inch set of bolt croppers, not the banana, no, the bolt croppers, we managed to get the lock in pieces. Virtually indestructible, remember? Yeah. Fantastic. We've since bought a 4-foot set of bolt croppers. They are awesome. I've been taking them to anything I can use, but we'll do that another time. The other crazy thing you can do, this is another smart lock, not the tap lock, but we discovered many smart locks with barrels, conventional barrels. Most regular locks will have what we call a dead pin at the end of the barrel, so you can't put the pick all the way through. One smart lock we looked at, pick went straight through, out the far end, flipped the cam, and opened the lock. So people are forgetting the basics of security by going smart. That's nuts, isn't it? Really nuts. Now I'm going to go back to the little story I told you about last time. This is my Ring doorbell. Anyone got a Ring? What? You listened to what I said last time? No one listens to me. Anyway, so the Ring doorbell, as you probably know, is a doorbell that you can answer remotely, right? This is a brand new one. I bought it last week from Argos for 80 quid. Fantastic. It is awesome. It means you can answer your door to a courier when they come around when you're not home. If you hook it up to a smart door lock, you can also potentially let people in as well. And when I bought it, where was it? They changed the design. I found a red button on the back. And what you could do with a red button on the back is you could push that button. It would go into a reset or soft AP mode. It would fire up an embedded web server. You could connect to it without any creds. And in there was your customers' pre-shared key for their Wi-Fi network. So you can walk up to their front door, unscrew the doorbell and do that. And actually, since we did that, I took it apart. It's actually in pieces now. But the best thing I found in very, very small text on there, on one of the PCBs, it says, if you're reading this message, call Jamie at Ring and put it back together. I'm like, wow, he left me messages. That's so cool. Actually, in fairness, they were really good. They fixed it very, very quickly. They were one of the coolest vendors I've seen. They fixed it within about 10 days. They were just on it. And that's when responsible disclosure goes well. Although it hasn't been perfect. I was contacted by a journalist who'd seen our work and said, I've had someone come to me and said they're being stalked by an ex-partner. I was like, oh, what, through their doorbell? Wow. That's really cool. And it turns out that if you gave someone else in your house, in your property, access to your doorbell, and if there's 2 or 3 of you living there, that makes sense, so everyone can see who's at the door. If you gave them a certain level of master account, you could never revoke it. The only way to revoke the permission was to replace the doorbell. And journalists got in touch with me and said, I saw your work. I found someone who's being stalked through their video doorbell, and Ring won't listen to them. And actually, I helped them, I gave them some background detail, and they went back to Ring, and Ring said, oh, yeah, okay, here's a new doorbell, we're going to fix it. They were cool. But would anyone have dealt with that if the user hadn't got in touch with the journalist and hadn't got in touch with someone in information security to get it sorted? They did sort it out, but it took a while. Anyway, the next thing in my kettle is this. I bet you all know what this is. #1 tech story on the BBC. It has been since midnight last night. It is a Swan Wi-Fi home security camera. Has anyone read this story yet? It's the #1 story on our website. This is the gift that keeps on giving. Now, do you remember about a month ago, there was a story where it was a journalist, actually, in the BBC, got the wrong video feed to their mobile phone. Now, I kind of looked at that and thought, interesting. So we went and bought some. They were quite cool, nice little, I actually taped it up because, well, I don't know why. Actually, because the brand name is on the side, but it's kind of a bit late now, isn't it? And a couple of my colleagues, Andrew and Chris, had a bit of a poke at the API that makes these work. So you can get the video feed on your mobile phone. Great. So we had a bit of a look at it and started playing around. And the first thing we discovered is the camera itself is made by a company called T&W in Taiwan. And the back end, so the cloud service that does all the tunneling, that gets the video through to your mobile phone and through the cloud service, is provided by a company called Ozvision. They are the guys that do things like stun, so they can get through your home firewall, they can do port forwarding, etc. And once that tunnel's in place, it's really easy. to get that video stream out. And we discovered the only thing you needed to get access to the video feed was the serial of the camera. Thinking, okay, well that's fine. Let's say it's a really long, complicated, something like a session ID. No hope of rooting that. Except it wasn't. It was 9 digits. And the API had the most wonderful feature that allowed you to enumerate which of those existed. Oh no. So we put a bit of a team together. This is one of the most fun projects I think I've ever done. It's been going on for the last month. It broke last night. I was up at midnight waiting for the story to appear on the BBC website. So Scott Helm, who you probably know, he's a really cool guy, does a lot of work with Troy Hunt. Alan Woodward, who's an independent security academic who's really cool, and Vangelis you know about. So what we did is, in order to avoid breaching the Computer Misuse Act, we all bought cameras. I was like, right, can we switch each other's serials? Because if I can switch to your serial, with your permission, then I can switch to anyone's serial. So that is Scott's camera top left. And as you can see, Scott has the best Lego in the world. I'm probably envious. And that is Alan's camera on the bottom left. I don't know if you can see very well, but that is a Russian submariner's hat, and underneath it is a model of a sub. Alan's got a very interesting history. What we discovered, once you could look at the API, you could pull the serials back. I don't know if you can see this there is a serial number. That's one of ours. And it was trivial to access other people's serials. All you had to do was proxy with a mobile app using Burp, man-in-the-middle proxy, or Charles we're using there, switch the serials, and you got someone else's streams. It was that easy. This wasn't rocket science. Crazy, hey? But actually, despite this not being the best issue, Swan were actually quite cool. We had a bit of an issue trying to get through to them because the BBC were working through their PR agency. And their PR agency, randomly, who I know, kind of got in the way a bit. And we're having sort of relayed conversations between Swan through the PR. And it's just getting in the way and making things difficult. Once we got through direct to the CTO of Swan, they were awesome. They were like, okay, we saw some weird behavior. We think we fixed it. We're on it. Tell us more. And I spoke direct to the CTO. I had an hour call with them every day for a week. And they totally on it. They fixed it. There was a cock up with a fix. They resolved that. It was fine. I think they probably learned some lessons around integrating third-party hardware like the camera and implementing it with a third-party cloud service from Ozvision. But by and large, these guys were on it. I think they felt awkward, a bit silly. But you know what? I think I'd still be fairly confident buying Swan product because they're on it. They're actually on it. I'd rather work with a company that's had a security flaw and dealt with it well than a company that's got flaws that they haven't done anything about. There is more on that. Anyway, a bit about Ozvision. This is where things got really interesting. I don't think Swan's really the story in this. Ozvision provide the back end, the tunneling services to about 3 million smart cameras. Now, I know that Swan they haven't sold 3 million of these. So we had a bit of a poke around, and randomly we found a blog from Depth Security, which is worth a read, all about a not that dissimilar issue in FLIR and Lorix cameras. As you know what made me cross is we had some FLIR FX cameras, and we looked at the bug and had exactly the same problems with Swan. So what had happened is Ozvision had fixed the problem for the Swan environment, but they hadn't fixed it on others of their clients. Wow, that's bananas, right? So we happened to have a couple of these in a cupboard somewhere. So we checked them out, had exactly the same problem. And here is the train wreck of disclosure. Swan, I thought, did a good job. Here's how it goes really bad. So after a lot of poking from the BBC, we've finally got this statement. It's public, it's out there right now. And what they said is there's a potential vulnerability relating to some cameras manufactured finishing 2016. The risk of unauthorized access is low. You'd need to know a 12-digit number, you'd need to know the URL and have access to tools. And we looked at that and thought, do you know what, I think they might need a little bit of assistance rewriting that. So we've done this version. So when they say they're providing notice, what they're actually doing is not actually informing their customers. We are a customer, we've got a registered account, we've had no update to suggest this. It's not a potential vulnerability, it's an actual vulnerability that we proved. Whilst it's original and was manufacturing stopped in 2016, they're still for sale, and we found them on Amazon. They've assessed the risk of unauthorized access. We think they meant high. They wrote low by mistake, but they meant high. of the actual vulnerability. And even though they knew about it a year ago, because Depth Security flagged it to them 1 year ago, well, October 2017, and there's a dialogue where they had there, so they knew about it nearly a year ago. It wasn't a 12-digit random ID, it was actually 9. And you can enumerate it using the API, and it was leaked via DNS requests and DNS records. The URL is /stream1, and by the way, that's in the mobile app. And you need certain tools. Okay, Burp, Charles, man-in-the-middle proxy, but also one of their tools from their DVRs has got everything you need to do it. Wow. I'm really cross about that because I think that's misleading. I think that they've been caught with the pants down. We found something. Why not just get it fixed? Do you know what's really annoying? They're still vulnerable today. That's crazy. So there's also something. So FLIR and Lorex are not the same company. So the product is branded FLIR, but this was tweeted today. FLIR sold Lorex, or the FLIR brand, to Lorex. I'm not entirely sure what was going on there. But instead of dealing with the vulnerability issue, so you see that Brian Krebs got copied in the middle there, they saw Brian Krebs and went, oh, we sold it. It's okay, we sold this brand. Despite the fact all the product is still vulnerable as FLIR, still advertised as FLIR, and available to buy from a website called FLIRsecure.com. Guys, what are you doing? Fix the bug. Solve the problem, and everyone else just goes away. Why is everyone wasting so much time trying to cover their brand and deal with the fallout rather than protecting their customers and fixing the issue? This bothers me. Oh, there's more, by the way. It carries on. So we started doing some local attacks as well, and we discovered if you factory reset, which you do with a pin in the back there and holding down the button, in the manual it says it will wipe the current Wi-Fi information from the camera. So we did that. It takes 30 seconds to do, then you've got to reboot the camera. And it does clear the WPA supplicant. But it leaves the PSK in logs that are stored on the device. So that means you can go up to someone's house, so these cameras can be fitted outside, pinch the camera, reset it, get the PSK. That's crazy, right? But I really wanted root. So here's the way. You get the camera, you reset it, it goes into what's called soft AP mode, so the setup mode. In that mode, which you can connect to with no PSK, so it's open, you can see FTP. And there's a lovely squash FS file in there with everything, including, oh no, oh no. The root password over FTP is TWIPC. That didn't take very long to crack, I'll be honest with you. So the root dance, well, what you need to do is you can then upload modified firmware over FTP, and there's no firmware signing or checksum, well, it's check, sorry. So you can reconfigure it, root it, put it back the way it was because you've stolen their PSK, put it back on the network, and now you've got a persistent root shell on their network through their security cameras. Cool. They fixed that one, by the way. That's in the latest firmware, which is great. There is more. We found a load of other bugs as well, but we haven't disclosed those yet, so I'm not going to tell you today. But keep watching. Another week or so, we'll have a load of more fun vulnerabilities. So I was going to go back to my kettle. Do you remember the kettle? Has everyone seen the kettle? You know about the kettle? We know about, yeah, good, okay, right. The kettle guys have fixed stuff. They did Kettle 2.0 using a really, well, quite flaky module, the ESP8266, which is a hobbyist module, doesn't have any decent entropy source, doesn't have any trusted execution environment or decent key storage. So not really the best device to go. So that got owned as well. Finally, they've released Kettle 3.0. And it's secure. And the way they've done that is they've implemented a module from a company called Electric Imp, which I really like because it's an IoT security platform. Cloud service, module, hardware, software, firmware service, everything is managed. They've realized they can't do it by themselves. They've gone and found specialists, and they've got a secure kettle. I've met the security team there. They're a good bunch of guys. They know what they're doing. It's brilliant. 4 years it took them to get it right, during which time Kettle 1.0s have got really valuable on eBay. So I discovered I paid over 80 quid for one. I need to discover the next day I was bidding against one of my colleagues. Oops. The cool thing they have done is they've integrated with Echo. It's got an Alexa recipe now, which is quite nifty. And this actually made things quite interesting for us. So I was trying to figure out a way, how could you get the kettle to boil? And I realized there's some fun stuff. All you have to do is shout at someone's window, boil kettle, and the kettle boils. It's crazy. Or if you crack the PSK, get onto the home network, maybe you could get their TV to fire up, turn on using something like Chromecast, stream some arbitrary YouTube content of us saying, Alexa, turn on the kettle. And the kettle boils. How cool is that? We did that on Panorama a few weeks ago. That was a giggle. Anyway, so if you want to boil water remotely, Smarter iKettle 3.0 is the way forward. If you really can't be bothered to go. Anyway, yeah, we won't go into that. There's some new things with Kayla as well. You all remember Kayla because she goes everywhere with me. There you go. Kayla, fantastic. Who's now, as you know, illegal to own in Germany. Did you know that? She's been banned. She's actually fallen foul of a German telecommunications law. And a German privacy lawyer called Stefan Hessel pointed this out to the telecommunications regulator. He went, yeah, the doll's illegal. Wow, yes, we will ban this doll. And they did, which is really awkward because I gave a talk in Austria on Saturday and I couldn't fly via Munich, so I had to go via Zurich instead. Anyway, so you know about the swearing doll, but what's interesting is they tried to fix it, and they tried to fix it by encrypting the database of swear words and questions and answers. And what was really damn silly is instead of listening to what we suggested in our blog, how they could fix it, they encrypted everything using SQL Cipher. It's like kind of fair enough, but what you're supposed to do is when you install the app, you're supposed to rekey on first use. And they didn't. They used a static encryption key, which is there. So all you have to do is use that key to decrypt the database, and she swears like a docker all over again. What? I don't know. What frustrates me here is security isn't that difficult with IoT if you care. If it's important to you that you protect your customers, security isn't that hard. Whether you outsource and involve a company like Electric Imp, who'll do it all for you at a cost, or you teach your own devs how to do security, or you just spend a little bit of time thinking about it. Security isn't difficult, and a great example is BB-8 from Sphero, a great toy. I might have bought one for research for my son a couple of Christmases ago. I might have reverse engineered the mobile app on Boxing Day and found they're doing firmware pushes over HTTP. Kind of minor bug, not particularly difficult, not particularly easy to exploit. You'd have to be in the right place at the right time. Reported them on Boxing Day. They replied on Boxing Day. They fixed it less than a week later, even though it was a minor bug. So if you care about security, if you have a way of contacting people, if you have a social media team that give us stuff, security is not difficult. And I actually really like what Sphero did. I've got another example of where social media goes wrong. Do you know what this is? This is a smart lock. It's the Yale Connexus. The vulnerability is not particularly Yale. The vulnerability is the fact that this is one of the very few locks in the market that's got a Z-Wave module. So you can walk up to with your phone, turn your phone, and the lock unlocks. That's really awesome. Now, we discovered a security flaw. Zigbee and Z-Wave, during the pairing process, paired originally over a plain text protocol. There was no encryption present. So if you were there, if you were lucky enough to be present at the time when someone paired, you could potentially intercept the encryption keys. So Z-Wave, to steal a bit of a march, implemented an improvement on their original S0 pairing security and implemented what's called S2. And that involves a key exchange, which makes it really secure. So it's actually very difficult to steal the keys. You'd have to be really quite good at this. Unfortunately, we discovered a method to intercept the S2 pairing process and force it to downgrade to S0. Right. But you've still got to be there during the pairing process. So we saw this vulnerability and said to the guys at Z-Wave, and we tweeted them and said, guys, we found a security flaw, can we report this to you? And they, yeah, okay, cool. So we had a DM conversation with them, great, fantastic. And they set up a conference call with their security team, great, had a chat, and like we were talking to the right guys, it was great, fantastic. They were listening, it was awesome. Cool vendor. Then we went back to them about 5 days later and said, guys, got any update for us? Just love to know if you've managed to recreate what we've done or got any questions, anything we can help you with. Do you want a little video? Would that be useful? Anything we can do to help? And the reply came back saying, yeah, we've passed it to our security team. I'm like, what? Hang on, we were talking to your security team. This is nuts. So what? So we've been helping you, talking to you, giving you assistance, and all you can do is reply saying we're giving to your security team. It's like, guys, this isn't right. We went public. Turns out that someone on their social media team hadn't understood what we were doing. We didn't know this, and really pissed us off because we had a really good, dynamic, interactive conversation, like we did with Swan. They really pissed us off because this fobbed us off. We went public, screw you. And do you know what I found surprising is it was a minor vulnerability. It was something you had to be present for at a really unusual time during pairing. You can't de-auth, you can't de-pair. It's a really difficult time. But the story went big. We weren't expecting it to. Primarily because of the poor disclosure process the vendor followed. And that, to my mind, actually separates out cool vendors from vendors that don't get it. Or vendors that let the PR agencies deal with it. Or vendors that let their social media agencies deal with disclosure. Deal direct with the researcher. Work with them, engage them, tell them what's going on. Even if you don't believe them, just talk to us. Anyway, do you like Dusk to Dawn, the movie where it's like a normal road movie, then it falls off a cliff at the end and there's vampires everywhere? This is this talk, all right? Has anyone heard the term teledildonics who wasn't at B-Sides Glasgow? Invented by a guy called Ted Nelson, who is better known for coining the term hypertext. Teledildonics is really fun. It's the idea of having interactive adult toys there to augment your personal pleasure. Actually, I really get it. They're very popular in the military, because imagine if your partner's stationed overseas for a long period of time, it can be very difficult to have a meaningful, intimate relationship. But actually, adult toys can really help that. And they can really help cement relationships when you're separated by several thousand miles. And I want to update you on a few things. Those of you at B-Sides Glasgow have seen all this stuff. You're tarnished. Whereas the rest of you are still vanilla. So the very first one we looked at was an adult toy that's it's called the Lovence Nora. And we discovered a fairly minor vulnerability. First of all, when you were pairing, it had a default Bluetooth pin of 4 zeros, which means you could drive past someone's house and connect to their dildo. It also had a more concerning thing, is you could take still photographs during your session with other people. That's fine. But when it rendered them in the Android version of the app, it wrote a temporary file to /SD card and then didn't delete it. So if anyone got access to, unusually, a physical SD card, they could have found some rather personal photographs. Or if they're stolen your phone, potentially get access to that as well. But that was a long time ago. There's some new things going on. There's also now a CAM model version of this. There's a nice XSS. This was found by a guy called Alberto Segura a little while back. He discovered that you could XSS them and steal their video feeds and hijack their thingy. You could also DOS them, but in order to do this, you had to know their email address, which is where the API was really handy because it allowed you to enumerate whether they're a CAM model or not. Fantastic. Just brilliant. Yeah, that was weird. I actually wrote that. I still struggle to believe I actually wrote that down in a blog. Anyway, there was another problem we found later on. There was an issue with the Lovence Nora. We discovered that, God, this is crazy. How am I doing this with a straight face? The smartphone app, when you're running in it, even when it's running in the background, continuously pings outbound for a particular API. It looks for a host called apps.lovence.com. That means that whenever you're running the app in the background, anyone else on the same network you are can see you're trying to ping a CAM model server. That's fine at home, I suppose, unless you're worried that your mum's a CAM model, or your sister's CAM model, or your brother's a CAM model. A bit more worrying if you go to work and join your phone to the guest wireless network, which means that your colleagues who are doing the content filtering in the IT department are going to go, why the hell is your phone looking for a CAM modeling server? Not the best thing, is it? And by the way, it also publishes a service on port 34567, which you can query and get a list of the toys you use back. That's the Lovence Hush, which is here. I went looking for some of the other sex toys and found the boxes in the office were actually empty. Yeah, we'll come back to that. We're not going to talk about that, or that. I want to tell you a little story about, so when you start at PTP, everyone gets a little pet project. And I remember one of my colleagues, Ian Williams, who was the guy who found the vulnerability in the smarter kettle. When he joined his pet project, he was given the choice of a dildo or a kettle. And he chose the blue pill, he chose the kettle, probably a very wise man. But everyone gets a little pet project, something a bit random, whatever we've got knocking around, whether it's an alarm, home appliances, dolls, thermostats, doorbells. So you all get a pet project. And my colleague started, he'd been in the office a few days, and he'd noticed that we were playing around with some sex toys. You kind of can't miss the fact there's a sex toy in bits on your desk. And he saw this, turns around and goes, oh, I've got a smart butt plug. At which point the office goes silent. Everyone turns to look at him and goes, no, for research. Yeah, okay, Alex. Lomas. So we started having a bit of a look at this, and this is the research job that he did. This is it. This is a smart butt plug. It's huge. I have no... Anyway. So, like most adult toys, it's got no pairing security. So, kind of, you've got the butt plug hijack thing again. But what Alex found was that there's a chat application, so you can have chat between the various peers that are using the device. And they stated in their FAQ that they encrypt all the data, so we've got no access to it, except that they didn't. So all the chat messages were completely unencrypted. So, yeah, open to anyone who wanted to look. But then we decided you can do some fun things. We decided you could, when he was out on a little visit around Berlin, which ironically I was in last week, but I didn't find any of these. I had my kids with me, so I wasn't looking that hard. What's odd is your Bluetooth advertising ID. You can't suppress it. So any Bluetooth device, when you flick it on, you'll always have an advertising ID. You can't turn it off. If you know what the advertising ID is, you can identify the device. So, for example, LVS001 is that butt plug. And in the same way that you go out hunting for Wi-Fi access points, and we call that war driving, we decided to call this screw driving. I went on a screwdrive around the Houses of Parliament, actually. I figured... Well, all I did is I took a Bluetooth sniffer. Right? Like, I think I used Light Blue from the App Store, which is free. And I happened to be on a tour of the Houses of Parliament, so let's see if we can find any butt plugs here, shall we? But you can also, because of the simple Bluetooth BLE security, you can easily write characteristics to it and change its profile. So you can simply hijack the butt plug and turn it up to 11. And unlike other adult toys, the butt plug is relatively unusual because they tend to be worn. And it's not as if someone hijacked your other toy, you could just whip it out. If you're wearing the butt plug, it's kind of, you don't really want to drop your kecks. And anyway. So I had this wonderful vision of maybe going to the Houses of Parliament and, like, during Prime Minister's question time, turning everyone's onto 11, seeing who jumped up in front. Anyway, yeah. You need to know, this is a really cool project from Internet of Dongs. Yeah, I know. He's actually a really cool guy, trying to do the right thing, and he helped us with disclosure with a couple of vulnerabilities. Really cool guy. And he's actually collated the Bluetooth advertising IDs of all the Bluetooth adult toys in the market. So if you want to go looking for them, you can. There's some really, really weird names in there as well. He's got it on GitHub. You can go and download it, and he's got a sniffer that will go and look for toys. Yeah, random. We were going to do a little bit more. We were going to spend some time pulling the firmware from the butt plug. But unfortunately at B-Sides Glasgow, we decided instead of doing something really sensible, what we'd do is connect the butt plug motor to a variable power supply and see how much power we could get through it before it smoked. We got over 30 watts, and Andy Gill, you probably know as Zephyrfish, was holding it at the time, and his fingers are still slightly numb. Anyway, to wrap up, I think there's some really sad things have happened recently. So, the Norwegian Consumer Council, as you probably know, helped with the ban of Kayla. The European Consumers Organisation got involved, the German privacy law got involved. Kayla got banned. You can't have her in Norway. You can't have her in Germany. She's been withdrawn from retailers in many other European countries. She's off eBay, she's off Amazon. Fantastic. There's a great draft bill in the US, presented pretty much a year ago today, getting the US Senate to set standards for the US government to buy smart products. They weren't going to try and regulate the market, they were going to try and drive consumer behavior by saying if you want to sell to US government, it's got to be secure and follow some basic guidelines. I was really sad. Last week, the EU published their Cybersecurity Act, or it's their draft act. And in there they said, yes, that IoT security is going to be regulated in critical national infrastructure. And everywhere else, it's going to be voluntary. Really? Do you think with the standard of IoT security, we can let this be voluntary? I think they really let us down. Department for Culture, Media and Sport, you're probably aware, have a Secure by Design program. I thought their first stab at it was a bit loose, but actually they're really working on it. They're going to relaunch shortly, and they're going to put some teeth in it as well, so I understand. So there are actually real incentives and maybe even a few sticks as well to beat errant IoT vendors who keep selling us shite. And that's what I think it is. It's exposing our privacy, our data, it's exposing the critical national infrastructure. It's not acceptable. So I think we have to see some regulation, and we've got to see some legislation. We really, really need to see some people being sued. There are 2 class action suits I know of in the US that have settled, both involving sex toys. Funny enough. Anyway, that's me, that's my Twitter, that's PTP. I'm on LinkedIn as well somehow. The blog is full of random crazy stuff. Most of it is suitable for work. Thank you.
Any questions? Back to the legal.
So you talked about how Swan were in terms of actually responding to the disclosure, and that they did a fine job, but it was still their brand name that was being like dragged through Twitter, and like they were on like the headlines that Swan cameras vulnerable. Even though they did their best to respond, and it was actually a third party's fault. Do you think that's would you have changed anything as to how you approach that in the future? Or?
So no, I wouldn't change anything. My view with IoT is actually a vendor that's been breached is going to have better security than one that probably hasn't been breached. So I would say to those of you around here now, I'd buy Swan with more confidence now that they have had a security flaw. Now, I'm sure that Swan didn't want this to get in the media, but actually I hope it makes people think twice. I would suggest the biggest risk is buying IoT from a startup vendor, because they don't have the resources, they don't have the capacity to fix problems, whereas some of the scale of Google, the scale of Swan, they've had security issues, but they've got the resources to fix it. And now they've had the pain of having been dragged through the press. So I would buy Swan products with confidence now. I'd feel much, much happier seeing them have an instant.
And is that something you communicate when you whenever you speak to BBC or whenever you speak to another news organisation, you communicate that like now this breach like has happened, like you shouldn't just avoid Swan completely? Because imagine the average consumer wouldn't really go into that nuance for like, oh, they've been breached, they'll be safe in the future sort of thing.
Yeah, if you actually read the BBC article, I do actually say, yeah, they actually do give Swan compliment. And my blog, we've actually, in fact, the most recent blog, which is actually about the disclosure train wreck with Fleer, actually, I even say the words "good on you, Swan," because I think they did a good job. You know, they engaged, they talked, they spent an hour a day talking to us, checking things, making sure they understood it, asking us to double check stuff. So what a cool vendor. Yeah, look, guys, you're going to end up in the press. Yeah, you made a cock up, but I think actually the difference between good vendors and shit vendors is how you deal with it. And I think they come out of it actually covered in, not glory, but I don't think they were covered in shit. Thanks.
So I'm just wondering what it's going to be like 10 years from now, and is someone like Swan going to be very much established, and we're going to say, well, you know, they've learned and they've moved on, or are we just going to be swimming in more and more of these new products which are vulnerable?
Wow, that's a great question. So I'd argue, so going back looking at, say, Nest a few years ago, had some pretty interesting security flaws, but look at it now, Google have taken it on the chin, they've fixed it, they've invested, and actually Nest is a really secure platform. Look at the Echo. Amazon have really thought about the security. So the one hard button is the mute button. It's not electronic, it's electric. So companies, I think, are starting to understand. I think there's a lot of Me Too's entering the market that are just trading on others' success. But actually, I think over time we'll start to see polarization of home platforms. So we're seeing Apple HomeKit, we're seeing Alexa, we're seeing others. And I think we'll start to see polarization. And actually, in order to integrate with those platforms, you have to prove a degree of security. So I think things will get better. The big brands, I think it's doing a pretty good job. And I think Swan have done a good job for years as well. Just they've done something new. They've made a bit of a mistake. They've learned from that mistake. They're going to be a hell of a lot better in future. So I don't know in 10 years. Let's see. Ooh.
Well, as you know, most consumers aren't that sort of technically savvy, in the sense of, is there something like really basic, some sort of basic type mark, something that they can actually identify, say, you know, this is going through a reasonable degree of security? I mean, I suppose it then moves on to kind of certified platforms, because I mean, a lot of this stuff is exactly the same issue over and over and over again. And you think, why are we seeing this yet again? But
So
there's two aspects.
there's a few things coming. So one of the positives coming out of the EU Cybersecurity Act is ENISA have been given a lot of funding to help develop certification marks. I think what we're quietly hoping to see something really consumer friendly, like the energy efficiency standards you see on home appliances and retailers. You know, there's an F to AAA. I think that's the sort of thing consumers can understand. I know that DCMS are really encouraging that as well, which is good. The Kite Mark is a brand owned by BSI. I know that BSI are trying. What concerns me about the various accreditation bodies, so BSI, UL and various others, is that they do have a commercial interest in theirs being the standard. So I'd rather see that drive came from government. So maybe a UK government standard or an EU standard that defines what security looks like in a really easily clear way. Because at the moment, right now, consumers haven't got a clue. And frankly, us as security professionals, we haven't got a clue either, have we? Frankly. Anybody else?
Hi. Is this on? Yeah. Have you had any flaws you've discovered which you think are deliberate backdoors put in by manufacturers?
Yes.
Were they Chinese?
No comment.
Thanks.
I have a wife and kids, okay?
It's not streaming on YouTube or anything.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment any more on that. We have definitely found backdoors and stuff. Yeah.
They're not the only government, though, are they?
Yeah. Yeah, go and do your own research. Okay?
Connects to CellX1 from Yale. So Yale's one of the most trusted lock manufacturers in the UK from a brand point of view. They've partnered with Nest for the long-delayed Nest times Yale crossover smart lock. Have you had a go?
No. It's something we need to do. The problem is there is a list. There is literally a pile of stuff in the office that we haven't got around to looking at. What we'll often find is something will draw our attention, like the Swan cams, for example. We spent the best part of a month looking at that on and off. So trying to find the time while still doing the day job, because that doesn't pay the bills. You know, this guff doesn't pay the bills running PTP. So we have to balance that. But yeah, I think I need to go and order one of those.
A good follow-up, wouldn't it?
It
See
would
how they've
be.
improved.
Yeah, let's see. Anybody else?
Ken's got the coolest job in security, but the dodgiest Google history, I think.
Yeah, you need to see my Amazon recommendations. They are totally screwed.
Anybody else? We all good? Brilliant. Can we have a round of applause for Ken and Liam again, please? Thank you. Quick one from me. Some thank yous as always. Thank you to Woodmac and Claire for hosting this again. The reason that there's no sponsors to this and that all pizza and beer and stuff is here is because of those great companies, so thank you to them. Thank you to our two speakers. Without them, these events don't go ahead. Thank you to all for coming out on a very hot night. We're always looking for speakers, newbies, come and talk, man. It doesn't matter what it's about. Any topics are open. Always encouraging more females, as always, to come up and speak and come to the events. Thank you to Product Forge, the team there, great stuff. And Brewdog, if anybody wants to hang around for a beer. Thank you all again. Cheers.